Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag sends a warning about the future. But imagine if it was a warning from the future, like Terminator, John O'Connor sending a person back. That would be a brilliant story. Erik ten Hag as a warner from the future. Brilliant. But no, he sent a warning about the future and I very much like it. We'll talk about that. Also, want to talk about this story breaking this morning about Manchester United and an interest in Goretzka in the January transfer window. Apparently he's going to be leaving Bayern Munich. Could it be another player that Man United take from Bayern Munich, this time in the January transfer window to strengthen our midfield? We'll get a poll going on that. Would you do it? Also want to talk about a bit of a theory about Kobbie Mainoo and how there could be a way to actually give the boy a rest. Would you be up for that? Is that a good idea? Want to talk about, obviously, the game ahead on Saturday. Ten Hag's been speaking about Rashford. I want to talk about Garnacho. But let's fly straight into it. I'm going to get this poll up and running about Goretzka. We'll talk about that in a moment. And I've got a very interesting thing I want to say about Garnacho. Just Kevin says 7 up, anyone. Even I want to just say, look, it was only Barnsley. I'm very excited about it. I'm very happy about it. And I think there's huge positives. But I do think that now is the time, it's Wednesday, to just start looking forward to Crystal Palace and hoping that some of these fantastic performances that we saw last night can feed into the above, i.e. Palace next this coming Saturday, and then Spurs. I want to take 6 points from the next next 2 games. I really do. I think Villa away is the third one's tough, and I'd probably take a point there. But I'm looking at Southampton away, Palace away, Spurs at home, 9 points, and then anything at Villa points wise would be a bonus, but maybe that's a stretch. But you know, you've got to start. That's what we've got to do. That's the target we've got to set ourselves. And this is really interesting what Erik ten Hag said last night. I think this was a huge statement, really. He basically said, I didn't overreact to the loss to Liverpool, and I'm not going to overreact to beating Barnsley 7-0. We have a project here. We're expecting big things this season, and where we are in May is what will count. And I thought, you know what? Big words, big statement, and I like it. But I do, because I think that, you know, it's very, very easy. And we were talking about this last night. Well, God, you know, if I think about, I will always defend myself when I, you know, if I've been a prat, I'll say it. But I was late out on Mourinho. If anyone's been watching the show, you know, I was early on Van Gaal. I went very early on Van Gaal, and it's a horrible place to be. I was Van Gaal out at Christmas. He didn't go till May, and it was a horrible 4 or 5 months, knowing that you don't want the manager anymore, but watching the team you love, not wanting them to lose, but like just thinking, God, what are we doing? It's a horrible position when you've made that stance. I was very late with Mourinho. I was very late with Ollie. And I'm certainly nowhere near being Ten Hag out. But some people are. Some people are. And I think that what I like about what Ten Hag said is that after the Liverpool game, there was a lot of get Ten Hag out. There was, you know, worse than that, bold fraud, horrible stuff like that. And then we beat Barnsley. And look, I think in life there are flip-flops. There are flip-flops out there who were Ten Hag out after Liverpool and are Ten Hag in now. I don't understand that. I'm sure there's Ten Hag outers who don't understand it. I'm sure there's Ten Hag inners who don't understand it. These people really don't help the cause, because you can't be so flip-flop. You can't go from one result to another, changing your mind about something as big as the manager. You've got to make your decision and stick with it. And I think a lot of people have. But I like what Ten Hag says, because we react so badly when there's a bad result, and then when there's a good result, some people overreact, the toxic positivity. And I think what Ten Hag said is true. I didn't panic after the Liverpool result, and I'm not going to get excited after this one. We've got a job, we've got a plan, we know there's still work to do, and we've got very big plans for the season, and let's see where we are in May. And that encourages me, because I think that it gives you that, I wouldn't say confidence, but hope, certainly, that there is a bigger project at play here. And what we saw last night, I don't want to talk about last night massively because it's all been said, but what we saw last night was just a rhythm that we can get into. It is only Barnsley, but 7-0, we don't do that very often, and it could have been 8 or 9. I expect Man City to dismantle teams like Barnsley. I expect Arsenal to do it. We don't normally do it. So for me, it's the patterns of play. It's the sort of chances we created. It's the goals we scored. They were simplistic goals. I didn't see many goals last night that were moments. How many moments goals have we seen over the last 6 years where you go, I don't think they could replicate that again if they tried. Whereas last night I saw a lot of goals that we could replicate on Saturday and the week after and the week after. They were formulaic. They were constructed. There weren't these wonder goals from the edge of the box. And that's what excites me the most. So when Ten Hag says that, you know, I didn't panic after Liverpool. I'm not going to get overexcited. We've got a job to do. And if if the team can keep in that rhythm, great. I've heard people talking about, I'm just going to riff a little bit here. I've also seen people talking in the chat about what do you call it? A headache for Ten Hag. Do you think he's got a selection headache? I think he's going to sleep at night with a smile on his face. If I'm in charge of a business and I've got people who are doing their job really well, and I've got to decide where I'm going to use them, that's my that's my decision. I want to make that decision. I'm happy to make that decision. You know, that's what being a manager is all about. The worst situation is where you've got to put people in roles and they're all shit. So, which is what he had last season. So I don't think he'll see it as a headache. I just want to say as well, I almost wanted to run it as a headline. Garnacho. I mean, Ten Hag spoke about Rashford, so I'll speak about Rashford in a minute, but he didn't really speak about Garnacho. Well, he did, but I want to speak about Garnacho. So, Eric, you can shut up. What? No, sit down. I want to talk about Garnacho. Let him speak about Garnacho, Ten Hag. That was meant to be Sir Jim. Well, at the end of the day, it's about the players. It's about the players. You know, we're here to do a job. That's not my best Sir Jim ever. But anyway, let me speak. Let him speak, Simon. Garnacho. I never really understand the criticism of Garnacho. He seems to have been around for quite a while. He's only just turned 20. I've always said the thing about Garnacho that makes me think and believe that he's going to be a top player is he's a game changer. We saw it on Saturday against Southampton, gets a player sent off, scores a goal in a late cameo, 20 minutes. He's always done that. He is a game changer. You would spend £100 million on a player like this. This is exactly what Man City did with Jack Grealish. And I think that there are similarities between Jack Grealish at Aston Villa and Garnacho. Not blisteringly fast, but the ability to draw fouls, make things happen. And that's not a bad comparison because Jack Grealish at Aston Villa, I'd have took him at Man United. So, but obviously, Grealish was in his, 23, 24, 25 when he was doing that, I think. Garnacho's doing this at 18, 19, 20. He is a game-changing player. He makes things happen. He draws fouls. He creates things. And I've never understood in this fan base why there are people out there that sort of detract and, do him down and don't rate him because factually, I just think he is the player in that squad who for the last 2 years has got the highest ceiling. Now, hopefully other people are going to catch him up. Maybe Mainu, maybe Ahmad, maybe Rashford will get back to his very, very best. But I think Garnacho is a fantastic player, and yet he's probably going to be on the bench on Saturday, and I'm okay with that. That is incredible. I don't want to see a player like Garnacho benched for shit, but at the moment, if he's on the bench, I sort of get it. Rashford's got to go back to the left. I want to see Xerxes there, and Ahmad shouldn't be dropped off the right. But oh my God, is he knocking the door down? And oh my God, is he probably the best player we've got attacking-wise? Did you know this season already, he's got 6 goal involvements. I think he's got 3 goals and 3 assists. That is incredible considering he's only started 2 games and we've only played 6 games, one of which was a late cameo in the Community Shield. He is making things happen. Rashford scored 2 goals last night and he's got 3 in his last 2. So has Garnacho. Rashford started both games. Garnacho came on against Southampton. Now, I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying there's a lot of focus on how good Rashford's doing, and it's great that he is. But Garnacho, I just think this is the player that, and I think Ten Hag knows it as well. I think Ten Hag knows it. I think he knows he's got a proper player here. And the interesting thing for me is how long does he keep him on the bench? Because it's a ticking time bomb. It's like, it's inevitable that he's going to explode into another level. And I think there is another level to Garnacho this season. And we spoke about it at the end of last season. And this is why I wanted to bring it into the show this morning, because sometimes we drop a little seed and it grows into a prime oak, and which is a tree. I remember having this conversation about Garnacho towards the end of last season as a community, and we were talking about our wingers, and we were like, Sancho's not even here. Rashford's had a terrible year. Anthony has had a terrible year. Garnacho's been our best winger, but you'd still probably put him into the category of Rashford and Anthony where he shoots too much. This season, his willingness to pass, and he was always relatively willing to pass, but he's 19. The maturity in Garnacho's game this season is there for you to see as well. Somebody somewhere has obviously said to him over the summer, look, you need to bring this more into your game, the passing and the moving and the creativity. And you can definitely see that in the opening games to the season. I mean, even the pass to Rashford for the second goal for Rashford today, I think there would have been times last season where he might have ran that a little bit further, but he plays the right pass at the right time. And that's important as well. Playing the right pass at the right time at the very top level of football is so important, because if you are a little bit of a selfish player, even holding it for another second can lead to that player being offside when you pass it, can lead to a worse passing angle. It really is so fast-paced that you've got to have that in your head to play that pass really quickly, and he did. I just think Garnacho is such an exciting player, and he's had such a great start to the season. Like Ahmad, like Rashford, and you know, we are in a really good position at the moment where players like that are probably going to be on the bench on Saturday, but are absolutely kicking that door down to get in the starting team. And that competition for places will lead to success. Marcus Rashford, Eric Ten Hag was saying about Rashford after the game that he's the big guy and, you know, he can be the big guy that takes us to another level. I completely agree. And I think that what Marcus Rashford needs to do is realise that star boy or whatever, brand boy or anything like that, you naturally have to evolve as a player. He's heading into his late 20s. He can't be the, you know, star of the team forever. Like let it go to Mainu, let it go to Ahmad, let it go to Garnacho. Become the senior citizen. Become what Bruno has been for the last 2 or 3 years, where you're still many people's favourite player, but you have that maturity. I think we need to see Rashford maturity now. That's what I think we need to see. Less focus on panicking about, you know, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, I've got to take this player on, I've got to shoot from 30 yards. We've always said it about Rashford. If he played the pass and made the move, he'd get a lot more better chances. And if he trusts the players around him to give it him back, he'll get better chances. And what happened yesterday? Lovely, both. I mean, surely Garnacho had 2 assists yesterday, both for Rashford. Because that pass to Rashford, I know Rashford did a bit of individuality, but it's the pass that makes the move, and then Rashford's individually finishes it off. And then the other pass from Garnacho. That's what I mean. Garnacho and Rashford last season, people might have thought they don't pass to each other. Look at what happens when they do. So I think that I've always said that if we can get Rashford to 20 goals, we'll have a good season. Look, we're not a one-man team. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if Rashford scores 20 goals, add Rashford 20 goals last season, we're in the top 4. So it really is that simple to me. And I think that what we need to do is maintain this start to the season and maintain this positivity and really, really focus on this teamwork ethic that we've seen. Because we could easily drift back when the heads drop to what we were doing last season, and we don't want to see that. Do you think we can keep Garnacho his whole career, says GGMU? No. I've always said that, but that's a different conversation. I think there is a trajectory for Garnacho to be at Real Madrid, and I think he will want to be at Real Madrid at some point in the next 5 years. But it's about, he will want to go to Real Madrid sooner if we aren't providing the platform. Like, the longer we're not in the Champions League and the longer we're not in the title race, the quicker he will end up going somewhere to Real Madrid, if Real Madrid want him. But I think we're all comfortable with that. But it would be nice to start providing the platform. And that's we've got to get Champions League football this year, haven't we? I know it's only Barnsley, but I'm waking up with optimism this morning. Matthew, there is nothing wrong with that. Do not feel guilty for waking up this morning feeling happy and hopeful about Manchester United over the last couple of days. I think if he'd lost any of those games, he would probably be staring down the barrel of sacking. So he's done what you need to do. But how many managers over the last 10 years haven't done what they should have done in front of them? I completely take it on board. It's only Barnsley. But when I can point at Newport County last year and many other results where we haven't done what we should have done, You can't criticise us for actually doing it. And as I said, it's the construction of the goals that impressed me. The cutbacks. You're only doing that if you're constructing your goals well. But it'll mean nothing if we don't get a result at Palace on Saturday, and that's a very difficult game in this league. Hi, Mark. I went to the live match where I was sitting, and we definitely saw a different United. We slowly see better play and movement from the team. 10 goals in 2. Hope they continue to build. Ray, you're an absolute legend. Thanks for letting us know that. Look, what a treat for everybody who was actually at the game last night. You know, there was actually people saying, "Oh, there's a few empty seats." I don't think you understand the enormity of Old Trafford. 75,000 capacity. You can see a few empty seats, but there would have been well over, I would say, 65,000 there. Trust me, go around all the other grounds. Guarantee Goodison Park, there was loads and loads of empty seats to play Southampton on a Tuesday night in the Carabao Cup. It's still a massive amount of support. And on a Tuesday night, when a lot of our support isn't Manchester-based, let's be honest, there'll be people travelling from all over the world and the country. What a treat. What a treat. I know it's only done that one. I think Goretzka. Well, let's talk about Goretzka, Riley. So Goretzka has been linked to Manchester United. Apparently he's not. We'll revert back to some of the other stuff I want to talk about because I do want to talk about Menu. But there is a story this morning coming in that West Ham and Manchester United are on alert for Goretzka. He's not happy with his start to the season at Bayern and he's looking to get out in January. Man United have been previously linked to Goretzka and have been relinked to him again. 71% of you would make a move for him in January. Interesting. I think Goretzka would be a good signing, says Riley, who's given us a super chat. He's big, he's physical, he's got a nice pass and he's got a good right foot. He'd be good for the midfield. But SA says no to Goretzka. We need to carry on with our transfer strategy, recruiting a 29-year-old when we're near would be okay when you're near a title. AG Marino from Arsenal, but for Man United, we're trying to build. And Patrick Lynch says it was only Barnsley, but I liked the fact that the team looked motivated. They wanted to perform at a high level. We haven't always seen that, especially against weaker oppositions. Just on that, Patrick, and thank you very much for your super chat this morning. Great to see so many people getting involved. Remember, we're live every morning at 10 o'clock, every night at 8 o'clock. I'm just so happy this morning, and I'm going to tell you why. I feel like a blueberry ready to burst. I'm like one of them Ribena berries, which you don't see anymore. Woohoo! But you know what? It's not because I'm over egging the pudding. It's not because I want to get clipped up happy today and then, you know, losing it on Saturday. It's just genuinely because you just don't know how many of these moments you're going to get. You know, every day is a blessing. Don't worry, I'm not getting all profound on you, but we've had so much negativity. I mean, I don't do a told you so unless it's on the podcast with Will, because I know it winds him up. But 2 days ago, Monday morning, I did a show where I was talking about we're 6th in the league for shots on target. You know, we're 6th in the league for conceding shots. You know, we're possession's better. And I did it because last season we were right down near the bottom of the league for all those things. And I said, there's clearly progression. And a lot of people were in the comments taking the piss, shouting stuff about being a knobhead and, you know, having a go at Ten Hag. And I sort of finished the show and I felt really depressed. In a show sense, I felt really depressed because I thought I genuinely feel that there is some progression. And it's so sad that people are just so locked up in this negativity that they don't want to listen. And I just hope that last night might make some of them people listen, because you can talk about being 6th in the league and we're conceding less shots and we're having more shots and we're having more possession, and that's factual. But when you score 7 goals and most of them are constructed in a way that we haven't seen last season, then hopefully some of those people will actually start to see what we're talking about. We're not saying that we're going to win the league. We're not even saying we're going to get top 4. But what we are saying is we're playing very differently to last season. Now, that's obviously going to be huge credit to Erik Ten Hag, but also you've got Rennie Heck there. You've got a new set-piece specialist here. We've got Ruud van Nistelrooy here. We've got Ineos here. We've got Dan Ashworth here. We've got Jason Wilcox here. There are so many components as to why things should be changing. It's frustrating when people won't acknowledge it because they just want to pin it all on a manager. So I hope that people last night, even though it is Barnsley, we can all say, tell us the last time we beat anybody 7-0. Look at what happened against Newport County last year, 2-0, and then everyone's trying to score a worldie. 2-0 in this game and everyone keeps passing. That's progression. That's teamwork. That's unity. So I feel happy this morning because I just think we don't get many morning shows like this where we can actually just be a bit optimistic and hopeful. I don't believe, no, I don't believe everything's better. I'm hopeful things are getting better, and for me it's tiny steps. And you know what? The great thing is, it's a cliche, but you're only as good as your next game. There is nothing from Barnsley and Southampton that make me think, oh, we'll take our foot off the pedal for the next few. The next game is huge. And it's huge to the extent that you can almost forget what's happened against Barnsley and Southampton because Crystal Palace is the next thing. And if you lose that, everything that's positive disappears. So it's game to game, which I'm more than happy to go on that journey. I will get to a point where I say, can we shut up about this Ten Hag out bollocks? We need a bit of stability. But I also appreciate we've got to work to that point, and I also appreciate that Barnsley and Southampton doesn't shut up a very vocal Ten Hag out movement. But I want to get to that point. I think many of us do, but we've got to keep down this road a little bit further, at least till the international break. I don't think we can hit a bad result before the next international break, and there's some difficult games there, isn't there? Villa, Spurs, Palace at the weekend, and am I right in saying we've got Porto as well before that? There were empty seats as people were stuck getting to the ground due to animals on the motorway. All traffic stopped. We got there 10 minutes before kickoff, says Gems. There we go. How do you feel about letting Brandon Williams go while we needed a left back, says Jonathan? The same way I feel about Brandon Williams being a free agent in the middle of September. I think we made the right choice. You can't just keep anybody. We're seeing progress in style of play. So Jim said Ten Hag couldn't focus on just coaching until now. Martial signed for Athens, if you haven't seen, says LMP. I meant to bring that in last night about Martial. Nice to see him get a new club. Do like Anthony Martial. There is an element of sadness that his career, I mean, he's still only, 28? It's very sad that he's ended up at that level of football, with all due respect, because of burnout at Man United. Cheddar says, I don't care what anyone says. Rashford is going to find his form in the Premier League again. I can see it. So happy for him, says Cheddar. Well, I don't see why anybody wouldn't be happy with him at the moment. As we were talking about last night, criticise when players are playing badly is absolutely fine. We have standards, we have history. We're Manchester United, and God, was he bad for a long period of time. But when you see those sprouts of positivity, we need to nurture that and praise that. I'm not one for criticising people when they play badly. When Scott McTominay scored those 2 goals against Brentford last year, not a lot of people wanted to celebrate because it was embarrassing, apparently, to score late against Brentford. I bloody celebrated, and it was Scott McTominay. I will praise players when they're doing well in a Man United shirt. It's that simple. I'm not looking for an invite round for Sunday dinner. All they've got to do for me is perform in a Man United shirt, and they'll get the praise. Couldn't give a toss if they've written a book. Couldn't give a toss if they've got a speeding ticket. Doesn't matter. Don't care if they went out in Belfast, really. If you're performing in a Man United shirt week in, week out, fantastic. Because I tell you what, there are legends of this football club who have very dodgy things against their name, and yet we still call them legends. So I think sometimes we over-scrutinise what these players do in their private lives, because ultimately it's very simple. Nice guy, nasty guy, do it in a Man United shirt, give them the praise, they're footballers. We have to back it up for it to mean something, says Robert McCormack. I completely agree. Vlada says, morning, Mark. It's a no for Goretzka, in my opinion. I'm going to talk about Goretzka now. I get that we need depth, but we shouldn't be taking other teams' leftovers anymore. Thank you very much to Vlada for your super chat. And Miles with another super chat says, I'm absolutely fizzing after that result. Now let's go to Selhurst Park and continue playing that way. There is more fluidity as a unit, says Miles. It's going to be a challenge. I'm really looking forward to it. Rashi is our best player and happy to see him getting back to form, says ESD. This is what we want. Rashford keeps scoring goals, says Savage. And we've done this before. A couple of good games, build our hopes up, and then boom, says the Codfather. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant comment. You're absolutely spot on. I don't think there's anybody in this chat or in the fan base that sat there going, we're back. I don't think anybody's thinking that, because this Premier... I mean, I got my hair cut by a West Ham fan. And we were talking about West Ham, and I said, not the start to the season I thought they'd have. And he was like, no, I thought we'd do a bit better. But then I said, you know what? The Premier League is so competitive. You don't get a run of 3 or 4 games where you can go, we're going to pick up some points. Because you beat Southampton and then you're going to Palace away. dangerous. Spurs at home, dangerous. Villa, dangerous. There's so many difficult games in the Premier League, and you got to earn it. You have got to earn it. Let's talk about Goretzka. So Goretzka has been linked to Manchester United, as I said, in a January transfer deal. Funnily enough, West Ham are looking at him. Not happy about his game time at Bayern Munich. One thing you need to consider is he's 29, but he'll be 30 in February. So even if we sign him in January, which may not be possible, it might be more of a next summer deal, you're effectively signing a 30-year-old. Now, the qualities of Goretzka are undoubted. He has been linked to Manchester United a lot over the last, I would say, 3 years, pretty much since Ten Hag came in. I don't think it was a Rangnick connection. I don't think it, I mean, look, God, that Rangnick list of players that we were linked to, Vardiel, Enzo Fernandez, Nkunku, Sabitzer, Lema, I mean, God, basically, pick a player, Luis Diaz, everybody that bloody Rangnick suggested to us basically went on and played really well somewhere else. But Goretzka's been linked to us pretty much consistently throughout Ten Hag's time, so you can understand why the links are there. But Rabiot was a player that we tried to get for 2 years and we didn't go for him this summer. So maybe it's an old news story in the sense he's going to leave Bayern. United used to be linked to him. Let's use United. Good player, powerful. Obviously very, very, very capable of playing possession-based football because he's been at Bayern and that's what they do. So I've got no concerns about the quality of the player, the suitability to fit into what our vision is, the quality, all of those things, absolutely fine. Alvarez was another one, yeah. And Sue says Rangnick scouting was insane. Yeah, I think many of us agree that he should have been kept. But look, as a player, Goretzka, absolutely. You know, you could almost say similarities with Rabiot. Who's the better player, Rabiot or Goretzka? That's not what I'm here to discuss. But there are a lot of similarities in age, probably wage, and experience and capability to play in the midfield, 100%. But I agree with the previous chat that if he's 30, it completely contradicts what we're apparently trying to do. Now, if Casemiro is going to go and Goretzka is going to come in, then that is not a terrible sort of replacement. But age-wise, you're replacing one player in their 30s with another player who's just into their 30s. So I don't think, as good as Goretzka is, that this is the sort of deal we should do. And also, I think we've got good deals out of Bayern this summer with Mazraoui and De Ligt. But we have had bad deals out of Bayern before. Schweinsteiger was around the age that Goretzka would be when we buy him. And you know, do we want to be buying players from Bayern that they don't want anymore? People will say, well, we've just done it with Mazraoui and De Ligt, but they're basically in their mid-20s. This is a player who is 30. For me, this is a no. I understand why 70% of you are saying yes, but for me, it's a no. Irfan says he's 29. Irfan doesn't listen. I said he's 29 at the moment. He's 30 in February, and we wouldn't be able to get him till January at the earliest. So he's basically going to be 30 when we bring him in. You can't talk about his age now when he's not going to be here. But in fairness, Joe says this notion that 29-year-old players are finished has to end. Well, it's not true, Joe. You're not listening. You're expressing your point, which you're entitled to do. And Joe is saying that 29 is no age, and that's absolutely fine. What I'm saying is Manchester United have very much made a very clear strategy that they're not looking to bring in players over, well, what's Mazraoui, 26? They're not looking to do that. Now, we've done a lot of this. Cavani, Ronaldo, Zlatan, Sanchez, Varane, Casemiro. We've brought loads of players in over 28 in the last few years, and very few of them have actually been successful. And the ones that have been successful haven't done it beyond a season. I feel that Ronaldo was successful for a year. Zlatan was successful for a year. Casemiro's been successful for a year. I actually agree with United's current strategy. I think they can look at the evidence in Sir David Brailsford's review and go, look, Man United over the last few years have spent a lot of money on players over 28. Very mixed bag. Headline hasn't worked. At best, you get a good year out of them and then they tail off. We need to be focusing on a longer term plan. We want to be better for longer than a year. And that's what that's what Manchester United is all about. So I feel that really for me is what we're looking at. And I also feel that we should be looking at players 26 or under. And in that midfield area, there's plenty of people out there. I mean, look, straight away, we all know Ederson at Atalanta. I wouldn't be disappointed by this if Man United went and got Goretzka, but it's not a deal I want us to go and do because I want to be longer term. And I'd be surprised if we did end up looking at people like this, who also, it's great what you're saying about we shouldn't be writing people off at 29, but on the other hand, they always have a big wage. There's two big advantages for going for well-scouted players who are 25 or under. One, you're going to get 5 good years out of them. 2, their wage is going to be lower as well. You go for someone at 29, they haven't got a long future, and their wage is probably going to be bigger as well. So for me, it would be a no. But I still think that there is certainly. The midfield is going to be an area that we're going to have to prioritise over the next few months because Casemiro and Eriksen will be moved on in the summer. Eriksen will not be given a new contract and Casemiro is not going to play as much football as he would like. So I think those two players, much the same as, look, Maguire, Lindelof, Eriksen, Casemiro probably won't be here at the start of next season. Maybe one of them will be, but I'd say all 4 will go. That's 2 centre-backs and 2 midfielders. Now, we're going to have to recruit. We're going to have to recruit in those areas. Mad wanting Goretzka, says Duncan. Hope you're doing really well, Duncan. Almost 30 on 300k a week, fading in a league where midfielders struggle to transition from. Waste of money could be used towards Wharton. Look, whether I want him, whether you want him, whether I don't want him, whether you don't want him, I think it's very, very obvious that United's recruitment are probably not going to go for this type of deal. I watch Bayern regularly. He's rubbish, says GGMU. Very blunt and to the point. Thank you very much. I say prioritise Ederson, says Rain FX. I don't know how likely that is that we get Ederson, but what I do know is we've got a very good relationship with Atalanta. We've scouted at Atalanta for many years, and Ashworth wanted Ederson at Newcastle last January. So there's a lot of reasons to believe that Ederson could be an interesting target for Manchester United. Chev says going for Wharton at such a young age means development and needed game time may not be a bad choice. Trouble with Wharton, Chev, is that I don't think we'll be the only club in the shop trying to buy him, and Crystal Palace will probably have a very, very high price on him as well. Ugarte, the new tanker, says Amir. Look, in relation to Ugarte, because I want to talk about Mainu now, in relation to Ugarte, I said it on my match reaction last night, and even I thought it was a good line. I said, Ugarte is the same as Manchester United. Factually, played brilliant last night. So did Man United. But it was against Barnsley. That doesn't make it a bad performance. You can only do what you can do. We now need to see him do it against better teams. And then, when he does, we can really start to get excited. So, and it's the same with Man United. You can't take anything away from the performance last night. It was brilliant, but we've got to see it in a better game. It's funny, actually, the journalist who I don't name, but I was on Manchester Evening News this morning just looking at the Goretzka story, and the player ratings was sort of shown on the thing I was looking at. Casemiro got a 6 and Ugarte got a 6. And I'm like, oh my God. All those years at journalist school and you can't actually watch a football match. 6 for Ugarte last night. He went off after 60 minutes and he was a man of the match contender at that point. And he's getting an average 6. And I'm just like, so what is it he doesn't like about Ugarte then? Because that was just criminal. Absolutely criminal, as Rain says. 6. Casemiro wasn't a 6 either. Like, I mean, I understand giving Evans and Maguire a 6 because they really can't really get in the game and nothing was going on. But you can't give Ugarte and Casemiro a 6. Absolutely not. We're definitely going to go for De Jong, says Pete. I hope not. I genuinely hope we don't go for De Jong. I think that ship passed 3 years ago. Akil says, do you see us bidding for Branthwaite? We will go for Branthwaite again. And the longer Everton have a bad season, the better. But in relation to that, but we will go for Branthwaite. Whether we'll get him, never say never, but we'll definitely go back. The reason we'll go in for Branthwaite is because we've made a play for Branthwaite. We agreed personal terms with Branthwaite. He wants to come to Manchester United. We want him, and the price was just silly. So nothing's going to change. We're not going to... I think with these sort of deals, it's a little bit like Sancho. Remember Sancho? Sorry to say the word, but we tried to get Sancho all of one summer. We didn't get him, and then we went for him the next summer. So when you know what you want, and United have got such a big recruitment team now. You know, you've got Ashworth, Ten Hag, Wilcox, Barada. You've got all these people sat in a room saying, Branthwaite's the guy. He's still going to be the guy next summer. It's just whether we can still do a deal. Younger players have less expectations about playing as well. Bringing in a 29-year-old, they want to play all the time, even when out of form, says Patrick Lynch. Thank you, Patrick. Good point. Casemiro first season was brilliant. Ugarte wasn't that, says United 1. Don't know what you're talking about. We're definitely going to have done that one as well. Just talking about the midfield, though, very, very good point. Mainu. You know what? Watching Man United last night, I know it's only Barnsley, but you see Casemiro and Ugarte, and you know Bruno can play ahead of that. Maybe Eriksen can play ahead of that. Maybe Mount can come back and play ahead of that. And I look at Mainu and I think, is there opportunities here to just completely take him out of the games? Like, I know he was on the bench last night, but is there opportunities here? I remember Sir Alex Ferguson doing it with Wayne Rooney, where he sent him on holiday in December for 3 weeks. It felt like 3 weeks. It might have been 2. He literally said, go and have a holiday. And I don't think he was actually injured. And I think, you know, obviously Man United in them days, we were so good we could win the title by letting a player have 2 weeks off. But we're never going to say to Kevin Mainu, go and have 2 weeks off. But what we could do is say, you know, you don't need to play midweek. Like, does he need to play against FC 20 next week? Does he need to play in the next round of the Carabao Cup? Does he need to play against some of the lesser teams in the Europa League? I think with Mainu, there is an opportunity here, especially with that double pivot, where you can literally just take him out for a game and give him a rest, because it's crazy what's going on in football at the moment. Bernardo Silva was on about it. Alisson was on about it last night. Varane mentioned it last season. Players are getting close to strike. The word strike is in their mouths at the moment in relation to the volume of games they're playing. And it's mad as a football fan, but I actually sympathise with them, because it's not about people go, oh, they're paid stupid money, just get on with it and do your job. I have to get up 5 days a week. Look, you do get up 5 days a week, but do you perform at your absolute best 5 days a week, every single hour? We are diluting football with the volume of games that we play. And it's a very obvious thing to me that you can't get prime Saka when he's playing Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday for 11 months of the year. You can't. That's the wider problem. But let's take it to Mainu, who is 19. The burnout of Michael Owen, of Wayne Rooney and many others by 27 in the English game over the last 30 years is factual. He's 19, and if we're going to play him every bloody game for 60 minutes or 80 minutes or whatever, he's going to burn out very quickly, mentally and physically. So I think last night, it was nice to see him not involved, and I think that there is an opportunity here with that double pivot and Collier as well, let's not forget Collier, to potentially just give Mainu a bit of time out every now and again, and I think that would be a real positive. Riley says, I'm going to go back on my opinion on Goretzka. He's getting on and we need to be looking for better options. Silly of me, to be honest, is right. No, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's a great point about age, and it's a great point about, you know, we shouldn't be writing players off at 29. I don't think we shouldn't be buying a player because they're 29. I think we shouldn't be buying a player because of 29 because it's not part of the longer term vision that Ineos are implementing. And also, as somebody just said there, if you bring Goretzka in at 29, 30, his wage is going to be very big, and he's going to want to play every week. So, you know, it sort of goes against what we're trying to do. Casemiro done that one. FFP needs to be reworked so clubs can have more depth. There's way too many games, as clipped by Cran. Mainu needs to be managed. Such a talent, we can't ruin him, says Sir Eric Ten Hag. And my super chat was very easy to understand, mate. Biased narrative much. Casemiro first season was brilliant. Ugarte wasn't that. That's not easy to understand, mate. Sorry. I mean, am I missing something? Casemiro's first season was brilliant. Okay, I agree with that. Ugarte wasn't that. He spelled Ugarte wrong as well, so it's not very easy to understand. I don't know what your point is. Casemiro's first season was brilliant. I gave him Player of the Year. Ugarte wasn't that. Wasn't what? Wasn't that last night? First season at PSG wasn't great. That's not a Man United shirt. I don't know what you're talking about. Genuinely, I don't know what your point is. Oh, you lookest in disguise. We need Theo Hernandez. Luke Shaw back up. I'd love to have the money for that, Rose. I'd love to have the money for that. Ugarte got another wounded knee and kept playing against Barnsley, says Amir. Just saying he wasn't the same level. What, after one game against Barnsley? Mate, stop while you're losing. Throw in the towel. You're talking absolute arse. Does Ugarte start against Palace, says Abs. I think Ugarte does start against Palace because I've read Ten Hag. Well, I've been studying Ten Hag for the last 2 years. Just over 2 years now. I call him a laptop manager because he is very much led by the laptop. And what I mean by that is you can predict when a player is going to come back that he's not going to start them. You can predict when a player does come back and start, they're going to come off after an hour. The hour mark for Ten Hag is key. And last night he took off Rashford and Delo and Ugarte on the hour. And I think he took them off on an hour because basically he'd been told by the medical staff that if you want them, if you want to play them tonight and start them, an hour is about the max. So I think that all three of those, I mean, obviously Delo and Rashford are going to start, but I think Ugarte coming off on the hour made it very obvious that he's going to start. Casemiro played all of the game, so I don't think he's going to start against Palace. And Eriksen played all of the game, so I don't think he's going to start against Palace. So I think it's obvious that it's going to be Ugarte and Mainu who start against Palace. That's how I read it. I mean, obviously, you never know. No one thought Eriksen was going to start at the weekend. So, but I think from that, there's a very good chance Ugarte should start. But also, I think he should start. I genuinely think he should start. I think that he is the only player that we've got that's going to go and chase the ball, win the ball, and start the attacks. And what I did see last night is that all these high numbers of players that we have forward and we don't understand it, it works when you win the ball back because the options are there. I look at us last season and how open we were in the midfield. And I look at us sometimes when all these players are so high up the pitch and I think, what are we doing? Look at Liverpool when Casemiro misplaces the pass and both fullbacks are gone. And you're like, what are we doing? But then you see it when it works, when you get the ball high up and there are so many passing options, it's difficult to defend against. So Ugarte has been brought into that team to win the ball. It's as simple as that. Eriksen could give Bruno a rest as well, says Damien. Look, on last night's performance, 100%. 100%. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. That is absolutely flown by. Absolute legends. 12,500 of you watching live, and I'm sure plenty of you watching it back later on in the day. If you are watching back later in the day, make sure you smash a like and give us your comments on your thoughts. Always reading those. Genuinely do, which is why I read them on Monday when it was so negative. But look, let's be positive. There's plenty to be positive about today. But I think, obviously, you've just got to, as Ten Hag said, I'm not going to overreact to this. I didn't overreact to Liverpool. We've got a big plan for this season. Let's see where we are in May. And ultimately, he might not be here in May if things go shit again. So we've just got to take it game at a time. But yeah, good feelings, good vibes. 7 o'clock show tonight because I'm doing Champions League watch along at 8. So 7 o'clock for the next 2 nights because of the Champions League. Yeah, lots going on. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great day. And I'll speak to you all in a bit.